So once we've done the arch and curl, well, then we start taking the integration of that four corners experience and the arch and curl and bring it into the diagonal arch and curl. Now, Hannah's approach to the diagonal arch and curl for the lower body was as you went into the arch, he suggested bringing either both knees or one knee across to the side. So if you started by coming across to the left, then you will start to feel how the pelvis starts to rotate a bit and the weight comes into that left hip. Now, one of the things that I find challenging about this is that some of us who are really flexible can then just drop our knees way across. And what you want to do is to really think of it as just a bit of a weight transfer. So another way of kind of getting a sense of how far you should go is coming across just a little bit and then taking that left foot and just lightening it on the floor, the surface you're on, so that you can feel as that foot comes up into gravity how you're just getting a bit of weight into the back of your hip. So you wouldn't want to go any further than that sort of dimple in your butt just before you come to the hip itself, the movable hip. And so that's about as far as you would go, and the right knee could follow along beside it, or you could just let the knee stay in center as that left knee falls out. And so just kind of, you have some options there to kind of play with as you get the weight coming across towards the left side. At the same time, as you're coming across to the left side, in your upper body, you take your arm and similarly to how I described bringing your hands behind your head or neck in the arch and curl, you bring your right hand somewhere behind your neck or head, wherever it feels like it's comfortable, with the elbow dropping out somewhat. And as your left knee and pelvis start to kind of get more engagement, you turn out to the right with your upper body. So your head follows a kind of how does it want to go, turning out to the right. The elbow may drop a little bit more as you do that, and you should feel a little bit more weight coming into that right shoulder blade as your weight transfers across to the right. So you start to get a connection between this right shoulder blade and the left hip with an opening diagonally across the center of your body and an arching diagonally across the back line of your body. And just to feel into that, find the limitation in this moment, and then just ease out of it. And I'm going to show you the variation where you go immediately into the curl. So what that would mean is that as your head comes up towards center, your elbow follows with it, so that as you come up towards center line, now you reach with your left hand and grab the back of your hamstring, back of your thigh, as your knees have come back towards center, and you draw your knee upwards towards the elbow so that your head and shoulder are starting to rotate a little bit towards the left, and the left knee is coming a little bit across center line toward the right, so that they either have elbow and knee touch to each other or slightly bypass each other, as you kind of get a bit of a twist of your upper body turning to the left and your lower body rotating to the right. So you feel more weight now in the back of the right hip and more weight into the left shoulder blade, and just really locating those and letting your body find its pathway into that. And then slowly letting yourself come back down to resting again. So you could do just that on between the left hip and the right shoulder several times if you wanted to just see what they would do, but it often is useful to let an area rest for a bit and do its integration while you come to the other side, so that you would just come across with your left hand now behind your head or neck, wherever it works for you, cupping the back of it. And now you let the right knee fall out a little bit. If it helps for you to take that foot a little bit up into gravity, that leg, so you really feel the engagement into the back of the right hip, allow your head to turn out toward the left, toward that elbow. Feel the connection into the back of the right hip and the left shoulder. And just drop into that and explore how there's an opening across the front of your body and an engagement across the back of your body between that right hip and left shoulder blade. And then just letting that ease off. Come back to center. And then as your head comes back to center and the elbow is following it, going an arc across the across the ceiling as it points more toward the ceiling, then as you come across center line, reach down with your right arm, cup the back of your right hamstring, and see what it's like to have the knee and the elbow come more towards each other as you're twisting with your upper body more to the right and twisting with your lower body more toward the left. And just explore, where is the path of ease with this? How far does it want to go before it starts running into effort? And just keeping yourself in the field of following that path of ease, feeling the upper edge of its movement where it meets against disorganization, feeling the sensations of that so you have some sense of what you're letting back down from as you come back to a rest. And just letting yourself take that in for a moment. And then we're going to come across one more time so you can see how this might evolve for you. So now your right arm and hand are going to come up to support the back of your head. And we're going to let the weight go across into the left hip, your head across towards the right elbow, feeling into that right shoulder blade, that left hip, noticing how the head wants to move with this, how the arch might want to form across your back. So letting it find its pathway. How does it want to go? A sense of opening across the front. So there's really that slinky sense of how there's kind of like an engagement across the center that's got a sense of opening as much as a strengthening in it. And then just letting that ease off. Letting the elbow come back up to center. And then as it crosses center and your head starts to come up off the ground a little bit, let your hand come behind the left knee and just see what kind of diagonal arch and curl wants to happen as you come up, and then slowly letting back down again once you find the end range. Letting that rest. Feeling the differences between your pelvis and your shoulders in this particular moment. And then knowing there's probably a lot to learn just there, now see what happens if you bring your left hand up behind your head or neck. Let your elbow and head come across toward the left. Let your right knee and foot help engage that right hip a little bit more so you feel the connection between the left shoulder blade and the right hip. Maybe there's a little more lift in that arching between those 2 points. Just letting yourself explore how far it wants to go, feeling the sensations of the end range, then letting down from that. Letting your elbow and head come back up towards center, and as it comes towards center, reaching behind your knee on the right side, and as your head comes up off the floor and moves toward the right, your knee comes up and across a little bit more toward the left, and feeling how there's a release of pressure from that right hip and that left shoulder blade. And then just letting that back down again. And then just give yourself a chance to reconnect about how your connection is with the ground, maybe even testing to see if there's any difference now with your legs straight for a moment. Just getting a sense of how that is.